Greetings and welcome to CRT Gaming Podcast, episode number 25. Join us as we celebrate the 35th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda. I'm Jones, and with me tonight are my good friends Gohan and Dazpick. And Mr. Gohan, is there anything more joyous to find than a heart container?
Oof, maybe like a magic potion or a bottle to put a fairy in. That's a good question, though.
Yeah, that bottle fairy solid. That's a good find. And Dazpick, this is kind of just it might be a rhetorical question, but is it dangerous to go alone?
I'm finding that it was extremely dangerous. It's so deadly. So goddamn deadly.
It definitely is. This week we're just celebrating the 35th anniversary of a cherished franchise called The Legend of Zelda. And we decided we're each going to pick a adventure for each of us. And Dazpick, he decided to go with The Adventure of Link, golden cartridge and all. Could you let us know why you went this route, sir?
Well, I mean, everybody and their mother played the original and absolutely loved it. It was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed it. My only beef at the time was I wasn't a huge fan of the overhead kind of scrunched up little art style, which was super cute. I mean, I don't dislike it, but I just wasn't. I like to kind of look at my hero, and see like an action figure almost, And so when I saw Adventure of Link and I saw that it had side view action scenes where you could see like a fully realized, like well drawn looking Link, I was like, oh hell yeah, I'm totally down for this. And I remember, I played the absolute shit out of the original. I thought it was fantastic. But memory did not serve and to remind me quite how difficult this game was. And I got a really, really rude awakening on the difficulty scale that this game has. It was, I think Gohan put it best for me the other day, that it was the Dark Souls of the series. And that is no bullshit. I sat down and played this for like 3 hours one night, and there were many moments that I wanted to throw the controller against the floor or any nearby people. It was awful hard.
I tried to warn you, Daz.
Man. But the thing, I still enjoyed the hell out of it. And, it took me back to, things we've talked about before. This was the game that I was playing, so there was no way that I was not going to finish it, right? Mm-hmm. And that perseverance carried us through a lot of these much harder games that we played back then, right? All the 2D games from back in the day are about 100 times harder than any of the shit that we play today. Everything that we play today is so much easier.
Well,
these games.
I'm sorry.
Well, no, I mean, I'm just these games are, because of the way they were done. I mean, like the enemy placement. It's done with the most sadistic planning.
Zelda
like
2
they jump
is an oppressive world. Zelda
it's horrible. They place them. They don't jump like the normal length that you would expect. They jump just short or just past where you think they're gonna go, and then they're either too close to block or too far to hit if you've taken any damage. And that happens all the freaking time. I swear it's like they got whoever did Castlevania 1 and said, hey man, can you just make a side view Zelda for us? I think that'd be really fun. And that's how hard this freaking game. It plays like Castlevania 1, the death level. That's what it feels like from the get. And yes, you level up and you find items that make you more powerful, this, that, and the other, and that's all great. But holy shit. Damn. Thoroughly loved it. Don't get me wrong. That was really something. But you were going to say something earlier, Jones. I'm sorry, I just kind of went on a tear.
No, you just been like back then, like when we played these as kids, like the only help you had was like there wasn't like today, like everybody, you could probably ask 10 people and probably 5 of those people have played a game. Like back then it was like you might know someone else that plays a game and that's about it. And so like on the first Zelda, did any of you have the coveted black Nintendo player's book, like the guidebook that had like Metroid and Zelda and all that in it?
It did not.
I had that, and that was for 3 games: Zelda, Metroid, and the Goonies 2. Without that book, those games I don't think would have gotten beaten back in the day by me.
Yeah, now I do remember I was able to beat the original Zelda without it, but I'd then used the book to try to figure out things that I did not figure out on my own. But I do recall the only way I beat this game as a child is I had to get a subscription to Nintendo Power, because I was out of options. And that was the only way I was able to get through this game. I do remember it was very difficult, and it was a lot different than any other game in the series, well, before and after. The Overworld Map was totally different because it was very like RPG-like now with
like Final Fantasy VII-ish.
Yeah, like with random encounters. And, and
you gotta stay to the road, man. They hit you in the road, nothing happens. It's awesome. There's nobody there. It's just an empty road.
When you see the big, bad guy silhouette, and you accidentally run into him, there's always like this oh shit feeling in your stomach because you just do not know what is going to be thrown at you.
Yeah, like if it's the big goblin-looking guy or the little blob, like if it's little blobs, it's going to be easier. But if it's the big goblin guy, man, there's going to be some bad shit in there, and you better hope you're not low on health. As I was playing it, having recently played Simon's Quest, I was curious which one came out first. The Zelda 2 came out first before Simon's Quest, but Simon's Quest definitely feels exactly the same in the very not much information being given, and hey, you gotta good luck figuring this shit out.
A very opaque translation.
It's like there's a dude here. Okay, and
I am error.
Nope, that's all you get. That's all you get. But I mean, I loved Simon's Quest, which I mean, it's no question that's why I also love this one. I like that adventure. I like the increasing the stats, the way they were done in there. And, finding heart containers, magic potions, and all that shit. And then the tools to knock out the bolt, the hammer to knock out the boulder, and the downward thrust. Oh my God, downward thrust. Love you so much. Just pogo off everybody's head and just run by everybody. Because, I mean, I was just playing a level, and I mean, it was just beating feet, just trying to get around everybody, because screw fighting all those people. But, I mean, it's great. I love it as much as I remember loving it. I just wasn't ready for how hard it is, but I don't give a shit. It's awesome. Still think it's fantastic. Music is great. The dungeon music is awesome. It's so good. Yeah, and again, I mean, drawing the parallels between this and Simon's Quest. I mean, those 2 games really, I don't know, they spoke to me in a serious way. I loved both of them so much. And I know, like, I know that I like the side view perspective better, and that was one of the reasons. And I don't know, I just kind of liked seeing a well-drawn version of him that wasn't kind of silly looking. Yeah, I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Am enjoying it currently.
I really can't think, in the history of games, a bigger kind of left turn for a sequel. Like, that was kind of the cool thing about video games back then, is when the Zelda 2s, would come out, when the Simon's Quest would come out, games were not so like tied to what the originals were back then, but I just can't think of a bigger left turn for a series than Zelda 2, like leaning into the RPG stuff like you're saying, Daz, leaning into the side scroller kind of more like direct fight with the combatant. You're not just hitting them with your sword, you're actually kind of fighting the bad guys as opposed to just like trying to hit them with your sword or with the magic wand or your arrows in the first game. Like it turns into like it's like this, it's kind of like this boxing fight where you're kind of trying to push each other away. You're like in fighting games, you're constantly trying to zone them. People saw the sequel, they were just kind of didn't quite know what to make of it, and some people kind of dismissed it kind of out of hand, but there's a lot of thought that went into the sequel. I actually hope that they make a modern day sequel for it on the Switch. I mean, if they're going to do Link's Awakening, I would love to see them make a sequel to Zelda 2, The Adventure.
I think you're right. I think it's nice, and it's not something that you see enough of. Especially nowadays, a game comes out, hey, it was successful, we'll make another one exactly like it, and change a color here and add a new weapon here and repackage it, sell it, and make, another couple $1 million. But this was totally different. And I wish people did that more. It's like, hey, you know what? We already know this works. Let's do something else. And there's nothing wrong with that, man. And this was a prime example of it, in my opinion, working phenomenal. And still keeping the heart of the game in it, but being very different.
I think that's a fair review of it. It's fair enough. It was very different. It's probably, of the mainstream Zeldas, I mean, they get so many, like offshoots on handheld and stuff. It's probably my least favorite of the mainstream ones. But I still liked it. It's just very hard. The corridor combat is controller throwing aggravating.
It is. There is no doubt about that.
You could jump maybe like 3 inches, and you hit your head and they're chucking knives at you, and it's just
those dogs with the axes.
Oh, dude. That was one of the moments where, like, I was in Death Mountain and I got the hammer, and then I died because I couldn't make it out. And I was like, okay, well, fine. I'm out of lives. I'm starting back over. I'm going back over here, and I'm going to get that freaking downward thrust, and I'm going to just hop through this freaking Death Mountain and skip to the end, and because I can pogo past everybody. And then I just went and got the little potion that's in the next room. But it was so much easier once you got downward thrust. And then I got some more life too. It was wonderful. It's wonderful. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. Still gonna play more, but
we wish you the best of luck, sir. So we'll move on to Gohan here, who decided to go with A Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo. Mr. Gohan, this is a return to what we know, or what we were used to before the Adventure of Link. Could you tell us a little bit why you chose this one?
Yeah, obviously, upon seeing Zelda 3, Zelda A Link to the Past in the magazines back in the day, like, a lot of folks were happy to see the series return to its top-down roots. I like Zelda 2, but seeing Zelda 3 in the magazines was hard to not get excited about it. And I don't know, it's just one of those things, right? Like, there are so many little improvements in A Link to the Past. Simple things like that add up, right? The fact that, like, Link can run at a diagonal, like, sounds like a really not interesting thing, but it just made him feel way more maneuverable and responsive as a character, and I think just in the end more fun to control. Like, if you remember in the first Zelda game, it was Link kind of controlled like a tank. He was either moving up or he was either moving left and right, but in this one you just got a little bit more control over the character. And just the inventory items, like Link could now sprint, with the magic boots, and he had like this kind of cool like inline dash that he could do with, I don't know, it kind of felt like, if you've ever played the game Ease, he kind of like charged into the bad guys, which was cool. And they did change quite a few little things too, right? So, Gohan was the ability to throw the sword, and Link now had this like overcharge where he'd kind of like swing the sword in a circle, and it was cool to fight regular guys with it, but it definitely helped with some of the bosses and the concept of the light and the dark world. I think that's kind of become a mainstay in the series, like maybe not necessarily light and dark, but the fact that there's like two ways to play the environment, like in the Ocarina of Time, you kind of go into the future and go back into the past, and I think that was something that really kind of started in this game with the magic mirror and Link being able to go into Hyrule, in its kind of current timeline, or going into Hyrule when it's in chaos, in the dark world.
Yeah.
Just so many things, right? The multi-level dungeons, like in the original Zelda, like all the dungeons were flat. In A Link to the Past, the dungeons were actually multi-level and like going up and going down. Just not only helped with the challenge, but kind of gave them more of a sense of volume and space, and dropping down from level to level also became part of the puzzle solving too. But yeah, can go on, like inventory stuff, there's mainstays, some of the inventory items in A Link to the Past have just been mainstays for the series for 30 years now, whether it's big feature kind of items like the hookshot and the boots, to like little tiny simple shit like the lantern, the hammer, the mirror, even the small additions you can't imagine modern Zelda games without. But yeah, sorry, that's a mouthful. I could talk about this game quite a bit. It's seriously on like my top 20 games of all time, so Zelda 3 has a very big place in my heart.
No, it's a great game. It's when it came out, it was something that kind of showed off the 16-bit is here, kind of, because like the graphics, if you would look at this compared to the original Legend of Zelda, there's like no comparison as to the upgrade that actually happened. In addition to the sound, the music was incredible in this game. One of my favorite intros, like introduction to a level of all time, is the intro to this game when it's raining, when you go outside for the first time.
So good. It's so good.
Yeah, and it had a lot of the hallmarks of the Zelda series kind of came from this game, or it was a continuation from the original Legend of Zelda, but this is kind of where they kind of ironed out the formula a little bit. Like, you get heart containers, you have hearts. Like in the Adventure Link, you had a life bar. You didn't have like hearts, so to speak, when you looked at the top of the screen. The Master Sword first appeared in A Link to the Past as being called the Master Sword. And like I said, you mentioned the hook shot earlier. You had the ability to like cut plants down. This is where you get to throw the little vases or pots.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine a Zelda game without that now? Like, that you just can't even think about it. Torturing
all pottery must be destroyed. There's rubies.
It's the best part of Wind Waker, aside from the boat.
Yeah, and then I think you could. It's been a while since I played it, but I think you could lift things up in this one as well, like pick like rocks or something like that up.
Yep. With the power, the glove.
That's what. The glove. But it is. It's the music is what really. It started really driving it home for me in this game. It's been a long time since I've played it, but it was an incredible addition to the series.
Yeah, I mean, Koji Kondo, the guy who wrote all the music for the early Zelda games, he was just killing it, right? People, of course, remember from the original game the overworld music, and then, of course, the underworld music, but all of the other music that people strongly associate with The Legend of Zelda were written by him for this game. Things like Zelda's Lullaby and Ganon's theme, and then just like the music when you meet the fairies, right? All of that was created for A Link to the Past. Yeah,
and you had mentioned the overworld, and that kind of jump started my brain a little bit. I think this is the first one that actually had the overworld map. Like, I had like a mode 7 map you could look at to, see where you're going for a change. Which is nice. It's nice to just determine where you are in this game world, and where you try to want to get to,
as opposed to the inscrutable box in the first game where it just showed a dot on a gray background, and you're like, yeah, you're somewhere over there, basically.
Yeah, but this way, I do remember that the ice levels were a bit of a pain for me in this game, if I recall correctly, where you would you do a lot of slip and sliding, but it's still it's a great game. I loved it.
Daz, did you get to play A Link to the Past back in the day?
No, I didn't. I didn't get a Nintendo Super NES till way late, and I think this had already come out, and so I just, I was kind of more into things that were coming as opposed to things that had already been out, which is why I got to like Castlevania so late, because that was an early title as well. Yeah, so I just kind of missed this one. So yeah, I need to check it out at some point.
Yeah, hopefully. I would think they would do a remake of this at some moment in time. I mean, I don't. Yeah, I would think about that for a lot of the series, but
You never know what Nintendo's gonna do.
There's no telling what they're gonna do.
They don't know, I don't think.
No, someone should tell them. They should hire someone to tell them what to do, and they could make a lot of money.
Yeah,
actually, what I was going to say was, if you haven't had a chance, Daz, definitely playing the original is definitely a treat. But for people who have played the original A Link to the Past, fans really should do themselves a service and play A Link Between Worlds for the 3DS. It's kind of like the spiritual sequel to The Link to the Past. So it's really, really inventive title, and is I'll just say a worthy sequel to the SNES game.
Yeah, I didn't play a Zelda game again until Ocarina. And I really enjoyed that one, but I never finished it. It was one that just kind of, I just never got around back to finishing that one. I got to a point that just didn't finish it. And I played Majora's Mask. I never finished that one either. But I did play Wind Waker, and I did beat that. It took me 10 years. But I did it. And that was actually pretty funny, because I got my daughter playing it. And like, I still have my original GameCube, and I still had all my saves. And so she started a new game, started playing it, but she would jump back to see like what stuff I had, because I was at the end of the game. And so she's like, okay, well, I still need to get this, and this, right? And so then one day she hopped in, and it said corrupt game file. And she's like burst into tears. And then, what's going on? She goes, and she just showed me the screen, and I was like, it's fine. This thing is so old. Don't worry about it. And so then she started a new game and went back and got to the end where I was and let me finish it.
Oh, dude, that is great. That's a good story. Like,
yeah.
And I mean, what a cool thing to, like, see through a young person's eyes, because the Wind Waker, it was when Jones kind of threw the gauntlet down and said we had to pick a Zelda game that we really liked. It was such a coin toss for me between A Link to the Past and Wind Waker. And Wind Waker is just such an awesome game. It's such a great game.
And if I hadn't just finished Wind Waker, I probably would have chosen it. But I just played like a lot of Wind Waker, and I was like, I kind of don't want to play that right now. I just did it. I'd rather play this that I haven't played in many years. Yeah, that was a neat story. I thought I'd share it. Anyway.
No, that's not. Yeah, the Wind Waker is, at a moment in my lifetime, it was the greatest video game ever made. In my book, like, if you ask me what's number one, it was the Wind Waker.
Dude, the riding around the world in the boat, man. Come on. You feel like a pirate.
Yeah,
you get
pirates.
You fight pirates. You feel like a pirate. It's awesome.
The whole kind of maritime vibe. There's all these open world games. These not they're fine games, but there's like Skyrim, right, where it's like you're constantly kind of getting barraged with semi-interesting things, whereas in Wind Waker it was focused enough in its world design that when you discovered something, it actually felt like you were discovering something. There was something interesting about doing it. It just wasn't another hut to ransack, like there was some island that you found, there was some interesting mystery or puzzle on it, and it always was worthwhile.
You're absolutely right. That's the magic that a lot of games don't hit. It's the discovery. It's that finding that thing, that moment that when you run across something that you didn't even know was there, and all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, this is so awesome. And you fall into this huge dungeon or whatever, and it's like, this is badass. That doesn't happen a lot. Most of the stuff, you got this checkpoint over here to hit this tower, and I'll do this whole area here. And yeah, that's what's missing a lot of times nowadays.
I'm glad to hear you say that, Daz. That is well, segue into my choice that I went with.
Dun, dun.
And actually, I was torn. I love the Wind Waker. I really love the Twilight Princess, and the Skyward Sword kind of lost me midway in that game just with the controls. I'm hoping this remake that they do, you could play it just standard without flailing around playing it. But I went with Breath of the Wild. And what you just mentioned is that sense of discovery and adventure is, I think, what makes Breath of the Wild such an amazing game. It is the type of game when you first start off, like all the other Zelda games are about adventure, discovery, but it's linear in the sense that you're limited to, I can't get here yet because I obviously got to get like some magnet boots so I can walk on the ceiling,
right,
or whatever. I'm blocked from going there. In the Breath of the Wild, you do acquire things that make the job easier to get places, but you can literally, anything that you can see, you can go to. You can go check it out. If there's a mountaintop, you get to the top of it, there's something up there. And not only is there something up there, in the distance, there's a mountain on the other side of the continent that's glowing. And you're like, that's awesome. What is that? I'm going to go check it out. And when you're first starting this game, on your way to check that out, you have been sidetracked 10 different times from just other things that are popping up that you're seeing that you want to check out. It's just an overhaul of things that can be done in this game.
Yeah, and the things that, like you're saying, Jones, that you're being distracted by on the way to your big objective that you're going to, they're not just distractions. They're good distractions. Like, it's not like, once again, like in Skyrim or Fallout, where it's another hut for you to find the same three things. Like, you're distracted by something that is like focused and well designed and like always has a fun payoff ultimately.
Oh yeah, there's like there's like the Lord of the Mountain that glows at night. I'm sure you're familiar with that, correct, Gohan? Lord of the Mountain.
Oh, the
creature.
dragons that kind of appear.
No,
is that what those guys are called?
The horse thing.
Yes. Okay, gotcha.
Okay, yeah. So like, I remember there was a night. The first time I saw it glow on the mountain, I was heading to it, and I was on another mountain. And as I'm heading to see what that is, like there's literally like a shooting star, like shoots across the skyway, and then like lands on the other side of the continent. And I got to choose, and I can see it crashed, put a crater in the ground. So I got to like choose where I'm going to. Do I go to, this glowing thing on the hill I've never seen before? Or do I go to this star that just crashed on the ground? Because there's got to be something in there because it's sparkling. So I got to go check
Clearly.
that. And then you have a day-night cycle that, things happen during the day, and they happen at night. So it's crazy things. Freaks come out at night. You get
and then the
music cue coming up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. and man, like the music in Breath of the Wild is like so perfect for the game as well. Like it was written by the name escapes me, but it's the composer who did the Animal Crossing games, and when he was kind of associated with it, people were kind of they're kind of lukewarm about it, but I don't, just as much as the amazing gameplay, the music was something that really made me, I don't know, just appreciate Breath of the Wild. Like it's such a more kind of ambient kind of experience, right? It's not it's such a departure from the other Zelda games, and it's so unique, and polished.
Yeah, and it took everything like over the top. It took like we can take the game apart. Like the main story, Zelda, Ganon, it's good pretty much in every Zelda game. So there's no point in going over that. But just the things that this added to it, like all the side quests, like you can literally like create a town, like the whole Terry Town side quest.
Yes, that was
insane.
So awesome.
Yeah, there's like that. There's the I forget the guy's name, but the guy that's got like the little hut with the balloons that's flying around at night that sells monster parts and stuff, where you get like.
Oh yeah, yes.
He just comes up.
There's so many emergent things like that. Earlier, when you're kind of talking about when nighttime comes, and when those kind of elemental dragons come out at night, like that was just something I had no expectation of happening in the game at all.
No,
like
what is that?
Like Daz, you're like going up a mountain and it's like quiet and it's like snowing and there's just like awesome, just super chill music in the background, and then you start hearing this kind of like chime jingle bell sound, and like you see this like beautiful like Chinese style dragon just like floating through the forest, and you're like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, it's about like 100 yards long. I mean, it's huge.
It's just insane. It's like this Falcor dragon shows up, and like Zelda or Link has to it just leads to another awesome adventure, and that's just it. Is around every corner in Breath of the Wild is another awesome adventure, and the shrines are definitely cool. They give you so many. Just those puzzle box rooms are just fun to play. Like instead of having the ultra long dungeon, they kind of broke their dungeon into 100 pieces, right? And whether they're challenge rooms with the combat or puzzle rooms using the ice or the magnet or any of those things, like they were always keeping the puzzle design in the game is just like amazing.
Yeah, it was I actually enjoyed the shrines because there's like 120 of them, and I'm looking at my save file. I got 170 hours in this game, and so I did all the shrines. I didn't do all the Korok seeds because that's crazy people talk. But I wanted to get all the shrines, and I actually wanted to complete that before I did the Ganon fight. So but I mean, just finding them is they're tucked in all the weird, craziest places that you would only find by going out there and looking for them. And they're tucked into strange nooks and crannies. Some are underground, and it's just one of the things that's and none of them are necessary. Like you can beat the game without doing the first shrine, and some of the challenges are just crazy. Like was it like Eventide or Eventide Island challenge?
Oh man, yeah, that is the kind of it's almost like a rogue. Yeah, it's almost like a rogue. It's almost like a roguelike. It's like, yep, you show up on the shore, you're kind of on your own, need to figure it out, and
all your stuff's gone.
All your stuff's gone. It's kind of got like a little bit of a roguelike kind of bent to it, right?
Yeah, you're just on a bad island.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head a bit. It's like in Breath of the Wild, in the other games, they started to really de-emphasize the overworld. And in Breath of the Wild, the overworld is the game. There's the little shrines, which are great, and then of course there's like the beasts that are kind of a little bit more dungeony, right?
Yeah.
But they emphasized the overworld and made it feel like something. And one of the things that I loved also about the game that I think doesn't get enough credit is just the combat. Like, it does have it's almost like to me, felt like this, mentioned the game again, a bit of a Dark Souls light compared to the other Zelda games, which kind of, Link, if he was paying attention, it was really hard for, there wasn't a huge challenge. Like, you weren't dying all the time. In Breath of the Wild, you will absolutely get in over your head. And in the other Zelda games, like the Twilight Princess and Skyward, and even Ocarina, and Wind Waker, it's like you're not just getting beat down by the overworld. The overworld's like where like little fun combat challenges happen.
Yeah,
it's really in the
sure.
dungeons where it gets difficult. Whereas in Breath of the Wild, it's like as soon as you like leave a safe haven, your gloves better be up.
Yeah. Well, you have that, and then you're actually fighting the elements as well. Like you have to put like I remember discovering, it rains. When it rains, you can't climb a lot of stuff. And it rains a lot, and then sometimes when it's raining, it's a lightning storm. So, if you got anything metal on you, you better hide it, because a lightning bolt's coming to blow you up. You can freeze to death, you can overheat and die, you can drown. Like, so, not only the enemy's trying to kill you, but the world itself at times is trying to kill you.
And that was like present, like from even like the early commercials and stuff, right, Jones? It's like this kind of, what do you want to call it, like the game had this emphasis on kind of nature and like that story of like man against nature, or in this case Link against nature. Like all of those things just made his journey just feel that much more real. It's like when you start seeing the character reacting to the environment, whether he's like panting about to die of thirst out in the desert or freezing to death up in the mountains, it's just something that wasn't in any of the other Zelda games, and made this just, if they were leaning into the overworld and the story of, the hero against nature, it's like they hit all the important stuff.
Yeah, it's like I could sit here and talk forever about it, but I won't bore everybody to death with it. But
it's a good game.
No, this is Jones's greatest game of all time. So if there was ever a special where I could do greatest game of all time, I could just replay this.
We're gonna circle back on this.
Yeah, I mean, you have like the blood moon, where the enemies respawn. That was amazing. Just stupid stuff, shield surfing, skiing behind the sea lions in the desert.
Oh, I completely forgot about that. That was awesome. I mean, the hang gliding, right?
The hang glide,
like that was almost like it was almost like a Pilot Wings kind of mode, where it's like that was just satisfying by itself, just flying around, just hovering around.
It was like a more fleshed out Deco Leaf from Wind Waker, kind of.
Which was a genius design in that game. The wind and knocking it around and being able to do like limited hang gliding. But Breath of the Wild, like, you became a fine artist at trying to fly as far as possible and all that stuff. So
yeah, but just to wrap it up real quick, just the diversity in the game. Like I had when I bought this, I bought like the deluxe set of it, and I bought the guide. I always buy the guide with the Zelda. I don't use it, but I like to, after I beat it, go back through and kind of just look at the art. Kind of just, because they always have like an introduction and stuff. And, but there's a total of 148 different weapons, 33 shields, 26 bows. There's 172 different materials you can mix to make food with. And out of those materials, you can make 122 different meals, which I loved cooking in this. I love just throwing stuff in this pot and see
Gordon
what comes
Ramsay
out.
that shit.
Oh, I was. That's like Iron Chef, man. I was cooking it up. But yeah, I'll stop myself there. Like I said, I can just blabber forever. But I love this game to death. I can't wait for a new one. And I'm hoping that somehow we get islands in the next one. I love the sailing in Wind Waker. If we can marry these two things, another 170 hours of my life is gone. That's what I'm hoping for. So, happy anniversary to you, Link and Zelda. Appreciate you for all the fun you've given us throughout the years. But our next special must happen. And I believe Mr. Gohan has something picked out for us for the following week. What do you have, sir?
So, when you brought up the idea of doing the Zelda special, it made me kind of realize that we haven't really talked about Nintendo games very much. We talked about it a little bit with F-Zero, which was a lot of fun, and F-Zero is one of my favorite series. But I did want to kind of keep this theme kind of going a little bit, and I want us to do the Metroid series. Metroid is one of my favorite game series of all time. I think, as I put it up there with Mario and Zelda. I look forward to kind of reliving some of those games because I really haven't played them in a long time, but they're among some of my favorites of all time. So.
Do we need to choose a Metroid that we're going to play, or are we just going to talk about Metroid in general?
I think we're just going to talk about the series and the games that we have played and what was special about them to us. So I think it's just going to be kind of a retrospective on the whole thing. So
awesome.
Well, cool. I'm down with that.
Yeah.
I love me some Metroid.
Yeah, Metroid's a good series. I haven't played one in a long time, but yeah, there's nothing at all wrong with Metroid.
Yeah, 13 hours in Super NES Metroid the day it came out.
That's a good game.
So good. Crack was
Awesome.
strong in that one.
Awesome. So stay tuned to next week while we take on the Metroid series. Till then, this is Jones with Dazpick and Gohan, and we are signing out.
Until next time.